All right. That is Mass Effect 2 Conquered. Nice. No coffin. All right. I was wondering. I was like, they said everybody made it back alive. I didn't choose some great choices. I feel like Samara was weakening up there at the end, but looks like we managed to squeak it. So very happy. Uh, yeah, all right. Finally beat Mass Effect 2 for a second plus playthrough, and I gotta say, game's still pretty fantastic. Only Samara and Jack can do that, and those were the two that I was going back and forth with. I was like, Jack is the bomb diggity. Samara, it says that she's pretty good. So I was like, okay. Only Miranda, Garrus, or Jacob can do Team 2 leader. I wasn't really thinking Miranda could do it, but Garrus or Jacob were on the list. And only Tali or Kasumi can do the tubes. Oh, okay. So I managed to squeak it. Maybe Legion, you have to look that up. Okay. Managed to squeak that by then. Pretty happy with it. My overall thoughts on Mass Effect 2 is it's definitely a fantastic game. Just the way it changes up the Mass Effect 1 gameplay is quite good. I'm maybe not the best fan of thermal clips. I think there's a lot of ammo issues that can present itself when you go with that. And I really like Mass Effect 1 for just having an overheating kind of situation. I thought it was actually kind of unique and, somewhat efficient. But I do like the overall feel of the game. It's just super nice to be able to jump from Mass Effect 1 into Mass Effect 2 and see the sheer amount of improvements. It's absolutely wonderful. I think my thoughts on the story, I was thinking about this a couple of days ago, in that the story of this game is actually kind of short, both in mission length, but also in terms of plot development. You start out by getting attacked by a collector ship. You you rescue a few people. I don't think you need to rescue everybody. I don't remember what's in between rescuing people and getting the Omega 4 relay key thingy, but it's only 5 or 6 missions, 5 or 6 relatively short story missions that make up the story of this game, and the rest of the game is a lot of side content, or maybe side-ish content, which is extremely interesting in terms of design there. Obviously, when you get to the end of the game and you don't have a great deal of characters, it's going to make things a little tough. But it's an interesting dynamic there to kind of play a Mass Effect game that's kind of lauded for its story and story progression and things like that, and then think, well, there's only actually a couple of story missions, and the rest of the world building and the design and things like that are um part of um other stuff. We'll just say because I forgot where I was going with that. So I thought that was a very interesting take. Except loyalty missions are so important to survival of your crew. They're not required, and yet kind of sort of are. Eh, it's it's um it's one of those things where it would be nice if, rather than, in order to proceed you need to do X, Y, and Z. The survival of the crew is not necessary to getting to the end of the game, so that's what makes the whole dynamic very interesting, because you could theoretically lose your entire crew and just one man, maybe, the whole end of the game, which is a very interesting thing in of itself. I don't want to say like everything is side content or side quests. I think there's an in between side quests and main story that like a lot of this content kind of fits into, because the Mass Effect games do world building and and um and kind of character growth differently than a lot of other games do. And so it's just kind of cool to be able to see that rare in between where it's like, yeah, it's a side quest, but it's actually important too. Like there's some stuff going on in this side quest, and you don't get a whole lot of that in side quests nowadays, especially in the RPG game variety, JRPGs and things like that. Um, for for combat, um, I I mentioned before that I'm not the biggest fan of the thermal clips, but other than that, I think the combat in this game just feels good. The weapon variety is nice. The types of weapons that you can gain access to that kind of swap your play style a little bit is nice. Having a locus machine gun, or small machine gun, semi machine gun, whatever it's called, you know, acts differently than a Tempest submachine gun, and so that adds a nice bit of variety and play style. Even though you're probably going to use them in the same manner, their effectiveness will alter your style a little bit. Maybe, who knows? Um, I didn't mention this before, so I'm just going to mention it now. I love the characters in this game. I, stuck to a lot of the characters that I liked, of course, but I think they did a really good job, even with the characters that I don't really give much attention to. I think Miranda's really well written, even if she's just not a very interesting character, in my opinion. Um, I think Jacob really has some interesting moral dilemmas that happen to him and whatnot. Even if I don't think that he's very interesting to have around. Uh, I think as you start going up from the tier list from there, you really, really start to notice how much breadth and uh, I don't know. We'll just go with specialness because I can't think of another word that really add to the rest of like the cast of characters. Like Mordin Solus, that guy is absolutely crazy with what he adds to this game, and his personality and the things that he's contributed to the Mass Effect universe. It's super super crazy. Um, Legion, a character that we get at the very end of the game, just adds uh, quite a bit of uh, craziness to it as well. Like we learn more about the Geth, which is one of the more mysterious races in this game. When it comes to like the Reapers, the Geth are pretty mysterious. So, that's super cool. Um, there's let me see. And then for the rest of the combat, I can't think. Oh, I mentioned this in the Mass Effect 1, and I think I'm probably going to mention this in every game, but I think the overall setting of the fights. So I'm not talking about like the Mass Effect world. I'm talking about the set pieces in which we go into a fight. I think one of my bigger criticisms has always been each area looks like it's constructed to have a fight in it. There's boxes in very specific places. There's high cover, there's low cover. Like there's explosives in certain areas. It kind of looks the same everywhere you go, even if the textures are different. You're still seeing the same cubes and rectangles everywhere. And I think that particular aesthetic when it comes to uh, like combat to combat set pieces does get a little stale. I would have loved for them to make more interesting combat arenas than just cover, square and rectangle covers and things like that. I can't think of anything else that is coming to mind as far as what I want to do. What I want to say. I think the voice acting is super good. I think the graphics are relatively dated, but I think they looked really really good when they came out, and ultimately, uh, it looks better than Mass Effect 1, and we'll just leave it at that because Mass Effect 1 does not look good. Um, but yeah, the voice acting is super good. Um, the music is the music's all right. There's some solid tracks in there. I listened to the Mass Effect 1 um, OST for Level Up This Playlist. It won't get its own entry. Um, I've noticed that it's more of an atmospheric kind of music. There are some of those really nice action musics and things like that, and those do stand out. But overall, I think the OST is just all right. It's very fitting for the game. It's just not very fitting for um, something that I would want to listen to standalone, I suppose. So I think I'll end it with if the developer is watching. I have played Mass Effect 3, so I know where this ends, of course. But in the sequel to Mass Effect 2, just to keep on the normal points that I want to go with, I'd love to see improvements to the combat. I'd love to maybe find a different way to maneuver around thermal clips. Maybe if we could store thermal clips on us or something like that. That way, in emergency situations, we can always just like reload or something like that. Maybe go with maybe like a hybrid system of overheating and thermal clips where maybe you don't have to rely on ammo as much. There's probably some innovation space in between there that could work. Um, I I like to see where the story goes on the in betweens. Again, I know how it ends, but I don't remember the in betweens all too well. So I definitely like to see a lot of uh, finalized world building, and I think more than anything, I would just love to see the series that is basically touted for having your choices matter make my choices matter. I think that is probably the big thing to really solidify that, you know what, this Mass Effect franchise, it was amazing. I did this and it came back to haunt me, 2 games later. That kind of stuff is really cool to see. So I'm really hoping that I get to experience some of that stuff. Even if, some of the stuff I know, if it does or doesn't affect things. So yeah, overall thoughts. Mass Effect 2 is a phenomenal game. It improves almost everything in terms of Mass Effect 1. And I can't wait to relive the Mass Effect 3 improvements as well. So that's going to end my thoughts here. From here, I am going to do the Arrival DLC and see what that's all about, because I've never done it. So, yeah.